story yesterday on the Daily Mail website that 25% of millennials believe they have post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, because of the Trump victory in the 2016 election. Now, my brother is a British Army colonel, currently serving in Afghanistan, right? I have met some of his men and women who suffer from PTSD from serious injuries they've sustained in battle. The idea that there is any equivalence at all on this planet between what they have been through and what some of these millennials claim they are suffering from because an election result went the wrong way it's so mind-boggling to me. And I'm afraid it plays right into this sense that we're getting that the snowflake generation is really getting a grip on America and indeed on my own country, Britain, that universities are clamping down free speech completely, and that it's becoming offensive to have an opinion that the millennial view has decided is wrong.
But you know what I worry about? And I think language is very powerful. I think language is a very powerful thing. And so I always tell people when they use catastrophic language, I have people come on and they've been through a divorce or or maybe they found their spouse was cheating on them or whatever, and they come in and they say, it was just horrible. I mean, it was the most horrible thing I've ever heard. I think, you know what? I spent time on the children's burn unit at Parkland in Dallas. That's horrible. When you walk in and see a child with full death burns over 70% of their body and they're having to be scrubbed and they don't understand why we're inflicting this pain on them, that's horrible. Finding out somebody you met on some dating website slept with somebody else last night, that's annoying.
I think this generation,
that's not horrible.
They've lost perspective is really what I think we're getting at. And I think we're agreed on this, is that they've lost all perspective. You know, I remember talking to my grandmother a lot, who was in her late teens in World War II, about what life was like for someone who was 17, 18 in World War II in Britain when the bombs were dropping down on your heads, you know. Yeah. And there's no doubt that they had a resilience to them, which I think stood them in great stead for the rest of their lives, which allowed them to deal with what I call the normal rough and tumble of life. You know, life's not easy. Life can be quite tough. It can be glorious, but it can also be difficult. What I think is happening with young people in particular now is we're cosseting them so much, wrapping them in so much cotton wool. You know, at school they can't ever lose anymore. They all have to win a participation prize for competing at sport. Well, why? Why can't they lose?
Everybody gets a trophy.
Right. This whole culture seems to me designed specifically to leave them ill-prepared for real life.
You know, there's actually a precedent for this because back in the 60s and early 70s, they did something called a teaching machine. And they went through a procedure where they taught students in such small steps that they never missed anything. So they would say, like, you know, the capital of Kansas is, and then they would give them the word Topeka. And then they would say, Topeka is the capital of Kansas. And then they would say, Kansas has a capital. It is. I mean, with such small steps that they would go through all of this, and they would go through and they would make 100. And they actually did learn the material. They mastered the material, no doubt. They actually knew what they needed to know. But then they put them back out into the general school population, and they took a test that wasn't fed to them in that way, and they made an 84. They were wailing in the halls. They thought their self-image was ruined. They thought it was a success-only journey, and when they found out, no, it's not a success-only journey. There are bumps along the way. You get dinged up along the way. They had no coping skills whatsoever. I feel like we're headed that way again.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 4 kids. You know, my boys are 25, 21, 18. My little girl's nearly 7. And I've said the same to all of them. There's nothing wrong with losing, but it's better to win. Better to win in life. It's better to be mentally strong and to be resilient, to come through tough stuff stronger than you went into it. I said, life will deal you curveballs. It will. And you've got to be strong enough to deal with it, because outside of death, you're going to still be around to have to pick up the pieces. So you may as well learn how to do it in a way that doesn't suck you down.
Yeah.